Hello and welcome to the first vlog of 2024. First of all, excuse the mess behind me. I'm going to explain that in a second, but for this vlog, I am mainly trying to challenge myself to read the 20-something books on my TBR in 24 hours. So these are pretty much the books that I'm going to be challenging myself to read during the 24-hour period. With that being said, there are a couple of disclaimers. I did include one book on my January TBR that will not be in this video because I have a separate vlog planned for that. I was planning on filming that one first. But some unforeseen circumstances have occurred. I tested positive for COVID on Thursday. It is now Monday. I did just test myself again and I am technically negative, but I can't come out of quarantine until Wednesday if I test negative again. Another thing is, while those are technically the official books on my TBR, I'm also reading the 21 volumes in Assassination Classroom, so those will also be included, just interspliced between each book I complete. I will also be, I'll be doing this with the timer method, meaning counting down from 24 hours instead of 24 hours straight through. I know that's not gonna happen. I need my sleep. Another quick little disclaimer is I've actually already started. What I was going to do last night was film some little B-roll footage of me reading and like the ball dropping and everything. But ended up being on a call with Benson. This is probably the first time in a while that we haven't actually been consistently able to see each other, much less, you know, sleep in the same bed. So we were on call last night. He was gaming and I was just kind of doing my thing. But yeah, I didn't get to start it last night. However, I did start reading last night, meaning I've already finished 2 things, which I'll talk about a little later, just because I have a feeling this vlog is already going to be, or this update is already going to be a little bit long as I'm explaining everything that's going on. So right now my timer is sitting at 21 hours and 50-ish minutes, so I do still have quite a considerable amount of time, but those 2 little small things, I finished the first volume of Assassination Classroom, and then my prompt for the play read, which is called Milk Like Sugar. So again, I'll talk a little bit more about my feelings on those a little bit later. As of right now, I don't know how much reading I'm gonna get done today, because Benson and I did have plans for New Year's. Basically, the whole mess that's sitting behind me, these are all of the books that were sitting in our studio that I don't have room for. Part of our plans for the day, we're basically having like a decluttering day, starting the new year fresh, and we're gonna look at, you know, bookshelves and go through like our clothes, see if there's anything we want to donate, as well as like books and movies and games and all that. So a considerable chunk of the day is going to be spent doing that. We're also going to be watching the Winter Classic for hockey today, featuring 2 of my favorite teams. When I say 2 of my favorite teams, I don't mean my absolute favorite of all time. Obviously the Boston Bruins hold a special place in my heart, but I also love the Vegas Golden Knights and the Seattle Kraken, and those are the 2 teams that are playing today. So we are gonna watch that together. I don't know if we're gonna be on call, which is why I don't know if I'm gonna get any reading done, because ideally while I'm cleaning and decluttering, I'd have an audiobook on, and one of the books that I have to read for this little challenge is an audiobook. Forgot to mention one of the books that I don't have in this stack. I have to read Tunnel of Bones as my reread of the month. So we'll see if I end up listening to that at any point today. If so, I'll update you, but I'm not sure how much reading is going to get done today. With that being said, I am still stuck in quarantine until at least Wednesday when I go back to work. So I'm going to try and get as much reading done as I can between today and tomorrow, and hopefully start the new year getting a decent chunk of my TBR out of the way. I want to make 2024 is going to be a good reading year. I can feel it. I am hoping I don't get in as many slumps as I did last year. I still read a decent amount. I beat my goal many times over. Ended up reading the most I've ever read in a single year, 154, I believe, 154. That's really exciting. My goal for this year is 200 books. So this is my current TBR. My Kindle right now represents the Assassination Classroom, because after I read each of these, I'm going to be reading a volume of Assassination Classroom. I'm not expecting to finish every single thing in the 24-hour period, and I'm okay with that. I just want to see how much I can accomplish and get out of the way. Also, have an anthology collection that I need to read this month. This is Out There Screamin' by Jordan Peele, and I do want to get at least most of this read. I'm trying to figure out how to intersplice this throughout so it's not like, so I'm not reading a whole thing in one sitting, but while also intersplicing Assassination Classroom. With that being said, within this vlog, I will also be reading Wuthering Heights as my classic. This is probably the one that I am most nervous about fitting into the 24-hour period just because of how dense it is. It's a classic. And I tend to read those pretty slowly, especially in these editions. I don't know what it is about these editions. Not to mention the fact that the book doesn't technically start until here. This is all like background information. Sometimes I read it, sometimes I don't, but I kind of want to at least try to get through that little part before the book. So we'll see how much I get through of this, but I am looking forward to reading it. Obviously, it's on my shelf for a reason, and I've heard some very mixed things. Next, for my series pull, I ended up pulling the Tales of Pell series. This next one is No Country for Old Gnomes. I don't know much about this. I just know this series basically is like a satire, funny version, retelling of like classic fairy tales, and they pretty much make fun of classic fairy tale trope. The first one very much heavily made fun of the chosen one trope, and I don't know much about this one, and I think I am okay with knowing as little as possible. All I know is I love the first one, and I can't wait to continue on with the series. I also pulled continuous series out of my jar this month, and for that we're going to be reading The Sisters Grimm. This is the 7th out of 9 books in the Sisters Grimm series, which follows Sabrina and her younger sister Daphne, and their parents have recently gone missing, and then they discover that there's this older woman who's claiming to be their grandmother, and she whisks them off to this town called Fairyport Landing, and they realize that all of the classic fairy tales that they grew up loving are real, and they are descendants of the Brothers Grimm, who are fairy tale detectives, and that's pretty much their goal in life, or their claim to fame in life. Okay, so I'm gonna go get a head start on some of those plans, and if I end up reading at any point, I will come back and let you know my progress from there. It is quite a few hours later, and as you would have seen, I did manage to go through some of our clothing drawers and threw away a decent amount of the trash that I have accumulated in here. And undecorated art tree, I can't really put it away yet because I have the box outside of this room, but I've pretty much done most of what I can do confined within these 4 walls, and I will finish it later in the week. With that being said, I promised you a reading update. Like I mentioned, I finished Milk Like Sugar. This is a short Benson and I had this subscription going on a few years ago, and basically you would get a few plays that fit a certain theme, and this was one of the plays that we had gotten. We have not read them. We haven't even really touched them since we bought them. So I'm not really sure where this takes place, but some of the dialogue was interesting to read about because I'd never heard characters actually, you know, talk and speak like this, but it was still a very intriguing story. This is basically, it doesn't really say it in the synopsis, but you kind of, context clues, you kind of get the hint from the synopsis as well as the title. We follow Annie, who makes a deal with her friends, basically a pregnancy pact with her friends. Yeah, it's just like a short little play about Annie trying to figure out if this is really the right move for her, meeting a new friend, you know, tries to dissuade her from going through this pact, and, you know, it continues from there. And I thought this was pretty solid. I wouldn't say this is the best story that I have ever read. I think this might have, it was great as a play. I think I would prefer to have read like an actual novel about this subject. I feel like it could have gone into a lot more depth and detail about Annie's feelings, but still a pretty solid read to start the year off. On a better note, I started the first volume, or I finished the first volume of Assassination Classroom. It follows a group of students who are trying to kill their teacher because he is basically an alien from outer space. He has destroyed the majority of the moon, and he plans on doing the same to the planet at the end of the year. And he is giving them the opportunity to stop him and to kill him. So the first volume was really just introducing our characters and seeing how they try to kill him. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was so fun. There were a few humorous places in there, like towards the beginning, our teacher decides to go on a trip to China during his lunch break, and he brings back a missile. So just little things like that. It's very humorous and fun, and I can't wait to continue on with the series. And Benson and I, hopefully towards the end of the month, once I finish all the volumes, are gonna sit down and watch the anime. Yeah, so like I said, I haven't gotten any reading done at all today, so I still have about the 21 hours and 50 minutes left in this challenge, and it's about 8:30 now, so I'm gonna sit down and try to read something, probably a few stories from Out There Screamin', because I really want to read this, and I think it'd be great to start the new year off with one of my most anticipated reads from last year. Alright, I will check in with you when I've took a few hours off. Hopefully we can get this vlog finished by the start of next week. Since the last time we spoke, actually yesterday, quite a few hours have passed on my timer. I'm now down to 16, and I still haven't finished a book. It is taking me a lot longer to get through No Country for Old Gnomes than I suspected. I'm only 100 pages in. So at the rate that I am going, it's gonna take me a while to finish. So a good chunk of my time is probably gonna be spent on this. I also started the first 3 stories. Yes, I'm using a receipt as a bookmark. I read the first 3 stories of Out There Screamin', and that also took me a considerable amount of time. So I think I'm discovering that it takes me a lot longer to read than I originally suspected, which, like, it's not too much of a bad thing. I do have 2 shorter middle grades on my TBR for the month, so I could realistically start one of those at this point, just to make some more progress in my TBR, and I think that's probably what I'm going to do. So I'm either going to start listening to my audiobook for Tunnel of Bones, or I'm gonna pick up The Ever After War and see how much I can get through of that. I want to be able to get through as much of my TBR as I can. Thankfully, I am back to work tomorrow. Well, thankfully and not thankfully in terms of this vlog. I am back to work tomorrow, so I am either going to, I did edit a little bit today, so I'm either going to edit the other video that needs to be edited, or I'm going to jump into Sister Scrim, and I'll let you know what progress I have made from there.
I'm gonna try to make this super quick because I'm filming downstairs because I don't want to walk all the way upstairs for a quick clip. It's been a few days since I've talked to you. I have been reading, but out of the 5 things that I have been reading, I've only finished 3. 2 of those being Assassination Classroom volumes, which I am absolutely loving. I've read volumes 1 through 3 so far, so I still have about 18 volumes left to go, and they are due in like 4 days. So either I will have to renew the volumes or try to read as many of them as I physically can. With that being said, we are getting a very decent sized snowstorm between tonight and tomorrow, and I am off all day tomorrow and see about Monday if we end up having a snow day. So I think I can do it. I think I can get a decent chunk read of that. But I've also finished Tunnel of Bones, which is the 2nd book in the Cassidy Blake series, which was my reread for the month. And again, I really liked it. I think this one, the 2nd one, is my favorite out of the trilogy. You don't know what the series is about, but this follows Cassidy Blake, who has had a near-death experience, and she ends up being able to cross into the Veil of Ghosts, and she has a best friend that is a ghost, as well as parents who are not really paranormal investigators, but they now have a TV show where they kind of travel around the world and tell, different ghost stories. So this book takes place in Paris and mainly around the catacombs. I've also decided to pick up the audiobook for No Country for Old Gnome, just to get through it a little quicker, also just to have an audiobook on the side while I'm reading other things. And I have to finish Sisters Grimm, which shouldn't take me too long. I think I'm almost 100 pages into that, and it's about 150-ish pages, which I'm probably going to listen to my audiobook for a good chunk of the next little bit, because I have to fold my laundry before I start doing anything. But I did just put on a pot of tea, so I'm gonna wait for that to boil before I do anything else and enjoy a little bit of this cozy snowy night. I should probably mention though, with my timer, I only have about 9 hours and 20-30 minutes left, so we'll see how much I'm able to read within that time. I'm still really proud of my progress. I think I've read a decent amount within this time frame, considering that I've been bouncing from book to book. I haven't, however, picked up Wuthering Heights or the rest of Out There Screamin'. I don't know if I'm gonna pick that up and either of those up again at all in this vlog. Pretty sure the last time I talked to you, I mentioned finishing No Country for Old Gnome, which I liked a lot and had a wonderful time with. I think I'll talk more about it in my wrap up when I can kind of gauge my thoughts. I have also just finished the 7th volume of the Sisters Grimm. This one, I shouldn't want to cry this much in a middle grade book as a 25-year-old grown woman. Needless to say, this was a great continuation of the series, and it's making me even more intrigued. I do have the 8th volume in the series on standby, and I want to, the ending of this made me want to pick it up right away, but I can't because I have to finish this vlog. With that being said, so far I have finished 8 books total. It is only the 10th of them. 4 of those were Assassination Classroom volumes, and the other 4 were not necessarily novels because I had that one play. But I think I've made some great progress. I have 3.5 hours left of this challenge, and I definitely am not going to get to Wuthering Heights in this vlog as I predicted. So I can choose to use those 3.5 hours either finishing Assassination or making progress in Assassination Classroom, or making progress in Out There Screamin'. I don't think I'm going to finish Out There Screamin' in 3.5 hours, if I'm being very honest. So with that being said, I think I'm going to use this 3.5 hours to continue on with Assassination Classroom, only because technically the volumes that I've checked out from the library, and I checked out about 17 of the 21 volumes out from the library, they were due yesterday, and I've only read 4 volumes of Assassination Classroom. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to read as many as I can tonight, and possibly tomorrow, and then attempt to make my way to the library on Friday, only because I am not sure how the weather is looking tomorrow. If the weather is looking good tomorrow and I've completed at least 5 volumes of Assassination Classroom by then I will make my way to the library tomorrow, return the ones I finished, and renew the ones that I haven't if that is an option. So that is pretty much the update for now. I think the next time that I talk to you, we'll be wrapping up this vlog, pretty much telling you how I've managed to complete this 24-hour reading challenge. The timer has finally gone off and I have finished 11 books in this 24-hour reading challenge, which is great. Honestly, that's nothing to sniff at, but technically only 4 of those were on my immediate TBR and the rest were Assassination Classroom volumes. I managed to finish 7.5 volumes. I didn't quite finish volume 8. But still, one of my main goals of this year is to read more manga. So in that sense, I did really well. The only reason that I might call this video somewhat of a flop is the amount of time that it took me to do that. The whole point of this challenge to me was to get the books, to get the books that I have put on my TBR read and off of my TBR as quick into the month as possible, and it is the 12th of January. So I'm a little disappointed in that, but I still managed to get 4 immediate books off of my TBR. I have found a manga series that I am absolutely in love with and adoring, and Benson and I have started watching the anime, which he's really adoring as well, so that's great. So I wouldn't call this vlog a total flop. It just wasn't done as quickly as I would have liked, which is something that I should probably stop saying, because I like, the whole point of reading is to enjoy the books that you're reading and to enjoy the time spent reading them. Yeah, it was still a great time, and I managed to read a bunch of books that have been on my TBR forever. I have made progress in 2 series. I have read a play that has been on my shelves for years, and actually complete my reread for the month that I haven't done in forever. So I managed some great progress, and I'm still very, very proud of the progress that I have made. With that being said, I still have about 14.5 volumes of Assassination Classroom to read so that I can get those returned to the library and continue on with this ABC manga challenge. I also have to actually pick up Wuthering Heights and Out There Screamin' so that I can get those completed as well. With that being said, that is all from me for this vlog, and I will hopefully see you in the next one.